It begins with a noise you never want to hear through a wall at 2:41 a.m. A raw, tearing sound that doesn't belong to a human throat. The neighbor across the hall will later tell the police it sounded like metal being bent in half, with somebody's breath trapped inside it. 911 audio log. 2:42 a.m. Caller, female, whispering apartment 4B, he's screaming again. It's not normal screaming. He doesn't stop to breathe. Dispatcher, is he alone? Caller, usually. He's been yelling at night for 2 weeks. I thought it was nightmares. Tonight it's worse. By the time the elevator doors stick open with a cough, the EMTs have already heard him. The scream isn't a single note. It surges and breaks, as if waves of fear are rising from somewhere the body can't control. The door is open. The apartment smells like cold coffee and laundry detergent. There's a lamp on the floor, a book face down, and the man, 36, lean, barefoot, clawing at his own throat as if he's choking on air. His name is Daniel Novak. History teacher, marathoner, if the medals on the wall mean anything, though the dust says he hasn't run in a while. He stops screaming when the EMT's gloved hand touches his shoulder. His mouth hangs open like he forgot how to close it. Then, with a wet inhale, he collapses. Not a faint, like his brain simply yanked the plug out of the wall and walked away. The pulse oximeter shows a dip, 89%, 88%, crawling back over 90 in a stuttering climb. Heart rate 148. Skin cool, clammy, pupils wide. Nobody says, possession. They think it. Then they get him on a stretcher because whatever this is, it's doing damage. In the emergency department, fluorescent lights turn every fear into a checklist. The first face Daniel sees when the world swims back is a nurse telling him her name, Ortiz. The second is a doctor who doesn't introduce himself yet, just watches. Later, on camera, the doctor says, "You learn to tell the difference between a patient who's truly confused and one who's performing panic." He wasn't performing anything. This is Dr. Elias Hale, tending. Sharp suit under a white coat like armor under armor. If you asked people to guess his specialty, they would say either cardiology or skepticism. Beside him is Dr. Maya Chun, senior fellow, medically fluent in both neurology and understatement. "Tell me what you remember," Chun says softly, because voices matter when someone's waking up in a cold room full of questions. "Noise," Daniel says, like, inside my ears, pressure, then my chest. I thought I stopped breathing. I was awake. I was sure I was awake. "Were you dreaming before it started?" "I don't know." He stares at the ceiling as if the answer might be written there. "Sometimes I see. It's stupid. A doorway. And something on the other side breathing my air. Like it leans through." He swallows. "Shouldn't say that out loud." Hale doesn't blink. "Any drugs? Alcohol? New medication? Supplements you bought because someone with good cheekbones on the internet told you to?" "None." Daniel hesitates. "I tried melatonin last week. It made the dreams worse, so I stopped." "Medical history?" "Nothing. Ran marathons. Until 2 months ago I started waking up tired. I thought it was stress. Kids at school are kids. Exams. Noise. I quit running. It didn't help." Hale looks at the monitor. Heart rate still high 80s, sinus rhythm. Oxygen 98% on room air. He looks at the tremor chasing itself across Daniel's fingers, more like an aftershock than a symptom. He looks at the throat, red marks where his nails dragged without memory. "We're going to run some tests," Hale says. "Blood work, EKG, chest x-ray, metabolic panel, thyroid, screen for anything you might have ingested or that decided to take up residence without asking. And tonight we're going to watch you sleep." "I don't sleep," Daniel says, a bit of humor that never makes it to his mouth. Hale turns to Chun. "Top line. Differential favors parasomnia," Chun says. "Night terrors, confusional arousals, maybe REM behavior disorder, though he's not describing acting out dreams, he's describing waking fear. Obstructive sleep apnea could produce gasping and adrenaline spikes, but he's not the body type, and the scream, that pitch. Laryngospasm," Hale suggests. GERD punching his vocal cords in the dark? Possibly, Chin says. There's also nocturnal seizures. Temporal lobe epilepsy can present with fear, déjà vu, autonomic storm. Nocturnal frontal lobe epilepsy, hypermotor events, vocalizations. Psych. Hale adds, not as a dismissal but as a wedge to pry truth free. Panic attacks, PTSD. He says no substance, but withdrawal? Bupropion can agitate sleep. SSRIs can distort REM. Pseudo-strangulation bruising from his own fingers, Chun says. Suggests the sensation is throat first. Could still be seizure with laryngeal spasm. Or, Hale says dryly, the devil. Put him on the admission list. Telemetry. Continuous pulse ox overnight. I want a video EG if Sleep Lab can pull a miracle by sundown. If not, we'll rig our own circus. And pull his neighbor's complaint history. If this has been happening for 2 weeks, somebody besides him noticed. The documentary line cuts to a hallway camera. A social worker at a desk. Overlaid text. Building management report. 2 prior complaints. Dates. 12 days ago. 8 days ago. The report reads like someone trying to be polite about suffering. Resident in 4B has frequent nighttime disturbances. We have provided earplugs to affected neighbors. At 4:15 a.m., the blood work returns like a quiet parade of normal. Sodium, potassium, chloride, fine. Glucose, slightly low, he didn't eat dinner. Liver and kidney, unremarkable. TSH snug in range. Troponin negative. Toxicology, nothing obvious. Vitamin B12, low side of normal. Iron solid. Ferritin not screaming. I hate normal, Hale says. Normal's an alibi nobody can cross-examine. They place Daniel in a room with a window that looks like a painting of a parking garage. He dozes under the watchful hostility of the heart monitor. Nurse Ortiz tapes a small, absurd camera to a pole at the foot of his bed. So we can meet your monster, she says gently. His laugh is tired and grateful. At noon, Daniel's sister arrives. Lena. She smells faintly of car air freshener. The kind hospitals try to smother with lemon floor cleaner. She is the sort of family member who comes with a binder and the expectation that if she is persistent enough, the universe will behave. He was fine, she says. We grew up in a loud house. Nothing scared him. 6 weeks ago, he started texting me at 3 a.m. that there was someone is leaning over me. He described pressure. Thought it was anxiety. His wife. She stops, her eyes flicking to Daniel's face. Ex-wife. She left last year. I'm not saying that caused this. I'm saying stress. But this? I heard him over the phone last week. It wasn't a scream. It was, I can't describe it. He said he could hear something breathing. Like from the door. Any travel? Chin asks. Animals? New environment? Mold. He moved apartments in March, Lena says. Older building. He jokes the landlord believes in ghosts but not insulation. Great, Hale says. If it's mold, the treatment is moving and complaining. Do you think he's crazy? Lena asks. Not timid. A challenge. I think he's sick, Hale says. And I don't use the word crazy. It's imprecise and lazy. We're neither. The episode they're waiting for doesn't come at night. Comes in the afternoon. Daniel has been nodding off in 100-second snatches. Splintered sleep that the body borrows like petty cash and never pays back. The room hums. Ortiz is charting. Chun is reading a paper about sleep-related hypermotor epilepsy when Daniel's breath catches without warning. Mr. Novak? Ortiz stands, already moving. Daniel's eyes are open. Wide. The sort of wide that doesn't see. His hands move to his throat. Not clawing. More like he's trying to unscrew his own airway. A sound rises. A strangled note, high and thin, like the last air in a balloon being forced through a pinhole. Pulse, 142. Oxygen, 95, 94, 93. EKG, sinus tachycardia, no ischemia. The camera catches the angle of his jaw jerking left, then right, then left again as if something inside is tugging. 45 seconds. His face flushes. Tiny tears star in the corners of his eyes. Then it breaks. The sound collapses. Daniel coughs, swallows, stares at them as recognition swims back into his pupils. "What happened?" he asks, voice shredded. "You told us you were awake," Hale says from the doorway, suddenly there. "I believe you even more now." "Oxygen dipped, but not disastrously," Chun reports. "Not tonic-clonic. No clear motor pattern except oropharyngeal tension and grimace jaw deviation. Autonomic storm possible. We need EG. Sleep lab says tomorrow." Ortiz says, apologetic. "Overnight slot is booked." "Of course it is," Hale says. "Fine. We do telemetry plus portable 5-lead EEG. Not perfect. Better than superstition. Should we start empiric treatment?" Chen asks. "If it's seizure, low-dose levetiracetam?" "I don't treat shadows," Hale says. "Not yet. H2 blocker and PPI now, in case reflux is the match lighting his throat at night. Bed elevated 30 degrees. No late meals. Rule out the boring things first. I hate missing boring. They will in a portable EG like a piece of alien furniture." A tech named Arun, who moves with the confidence of someone who has taped wires to more foreheads than he can count, pastes tiny electrodes along Daniel's scalp. Daniel bears it with the kind of patience that looks like someone trying not to fall apart in public. Clinical note. Dr. Chun. Point. Daniel Novak, 36M. Episodes of nocturnal and daytime screams. Subjective awareness during events. Post-event confusion minimal. No bite marks or incontinence. Possible diagnoses include parasomnias, night terrors, confusional arousals, sleep-related hypermotor epilepsy, nocturnal frontal lobe epilepsy, temporal lobe epilepsy, fear aura, GERD-induced laryngospasm, OSA, less likely given phenotype, but cannot exclude, panic/pseudo-seizure, less likely given objective findings, plan, VEG overnight, polysomnography if possible, empiric GERD-TX, labs pending, autoimmune panel if seizures confirmed, psych consult if neurologic causes excluded. The word autoimmune hangs in the air like a cloud nobody acknowledges yet. It's too early for that. It's always too early until it isn't. When night falls, the hospital changes temperature without the thermostat moving. Hallways grow longer. Monitors beep more slowly. The camera at the foot of Daniel's bed throws a small green light, the kind of glow that makes people feel watched even when they aren't. At 1:13 a.m., the building's air vents sigh as if they're exhausted, too. Daniel sleeps in shallow tides. The EG draws quiet hills across a screen. Nurse Ortiz brings a blanket and tucks it under his elbows, the way you do for someone you loved if the world had been fairer. At 2:06 a.m., the audio picks up the faintest sound, a breath getting caught on something invisible. It is small enough at first that you could mistake it for a dream repositioning itself. Then Daniel's shoulders tense the way a frightened animal readies to run. "Here we go," Ortiz says softly into her chest mic. The scream begins as a cough strangled in the crib. It rises so quickly it has no middle. 1 second, 81 BPM. 2 seconds, 138. Oxygen, 98 to 92 to 89 and hovering. E.g. An odd burst over the frontal leads. Spiky, not classic. The jaw drags left. Hands rise, but this time, Ortiz catches them before nails meet skin. "Mr. Novak, Daniel, listen to my voice," she says, even though she knows hearing works strangely when terror tunnels everything. "Breathe with me." Hale and Chun arrive almost together, shoes muting quickly on tile. Hale doesn't ask what he's seeing. He watches. He listens. He notes the pitch high, sustained, like air forced through a narrowed glottis. He notes the eyes open, tracking nothing. He notes the scent, acrid, like pennies and adrenaline. "Duration," Chun says, already counting under her breath. 30, 35. 0290, Ortiz warns. 88. Jaw thrust, Hale orders. "Don't let him bite his tongue. Chin up. Good. No bagging. He's ventilating." The scream breaks off like someone cut a string. Daniel's face slackens. His chest shudders with a gulp. Oxygen kicks back up as if embarrassed. For a moment, nobody speaks. "Mark it," Hale says. 2 hours 7 minutes and 14 seconds to 2 hours 8 minutes and 3 seconds. Pull the EG clip. I want neurology in the morning with coffee and opinions. Daniel opens his eyes in stages. The look he gives them is more apology than fear. "Was I loud?" he asks, voice a sandpaper whisper. "Only if you consider a jet engine loud." Hale says without smiling. "You stayed in bed. That's progress." Daniel breathes out a laugh that could be sobbing if it wanted to be. "I could feel it," he says. "Not a dream. Like something closing. Like the room shrank and the air was wrong." "Do you remember this?" Chun asks, tapping the side of her own jaw. "You turned your head left." He touches his jaw, winces. Feels like someone pulled. They leave him with silence and the small, busy noises of machines forgiving him. In the hallway, the team gathers around a monitor like people staring at the weather radar when they already know they'll get wet. The EG burst isn't textbook. It splashes over the frontal leads, jagged as broken glass. There's movement artifact from the scream, as expected, but underneath, there. A rhythm. Brief, focal, anterior. Then quiet. Could be frontal lobe seizure, Chun says. Nocturnal hypermotor events can be brief, bizarre vocalizations, dystonic posturing. Fear auras are more temporal, but overlap exists. Could also be a reflux event causing laryngospasm and the EG is just movement artifact, Hale counters. But the HR and O2 pattern, the jaw deviation, or both, Chun says, GERD as trigger in a susceptible cortex. I love when diseases team up, Hale mutters. Call neurology at 7. And order pH impedance monitoring if sleep lab will play nice. If this is laryngospasm, his esophagus is throwing a tantrum at night. They don't say the other word yet, the one that belongs to another floor and another kind of fear. Autoimmune. Because sometimes the brain attacks itself with a devotion that would look like love if it weren't trying to kill you. At 4:03 a.m., Daniel is awake, staring at the ceiling. The camera records nothing except a man refusing to close his eyes. He presses his fingers to the hollow at the base of his throat like he's reminding his body where breathing lives. When morning stains the blinds gray, neurology arrives with coffee and controlled optimism. Dr. Varga is the kind of specialist who dresses like he plans to be mistaken for a pianist. Dark shirt, slim tie, a way of speaking that treats silence as a necessary test. We saw your event, he tells Daniel. I'd like to do a longer EEG, maybe a sleep-deprived one. Sometimes we need to make your brain tired to show us what it's hiding. We'll also schedule an MRI just to picturize the hardware. And because medicine is a team sport, gastroenterology wants to look for reflux. You may become very popular. Is it in my head? Daniel asks. I mean, obviously, but you know what I mean. It's in your head, Varga says and waits half a beat. Because your head is where your brain lives. That doesn't make it imaginary. When Varga leaves, Lena squeezes her brother's hand so hard he winks at her in protest. She doesn't let go. You'll tell me the truth, right? She asks the room. It isn't clear who she's asking. Maybe the wires. Maybe the walls. Maybe the part of Daniel that stands at the threshold every night. Hale gives her the kind of answer that doesn't try to be pretty. The truth is a moving target, he says. We'll keep shooting. Resident progress note, 8:12 a.m. Overnight event captured on telemetry and portable EEG. HR surge to 140s. O2 drop to 89%. Duration 45s. Recovery spontaneous. Focal frontal activity suspected but not definitive due to artifact. Plan. Formal VG plus PSG tonight. MRI brain W/ and without contrast. Start omeprazole plus H2 blocker. Head of bed elevation. Consider autoimmune panel if seizure disorder supported. LGI1, CASPR2, NMDA receptor etc. Psych consult deferred pending neuro workup. The day passes in pieces. Blood pressure cuffs hiss. The MRI lab calls with a slot at noon. They slide Daniel into a tube that sounds like construction happening in the bones of the earth. The images will take hours to read. Waiting becomes another vital sign. At 3:17 p.m., a man from building maintenance drops off a printout like an offering. 2 noise complaints stapled to a polite letter. On one of them, the neighbor wrote in a shaky hand, "I thought he was dying. I almost knocked, but I was afraid he might answer." Hale reads it, then slides it under the chart. "People don't scream like that for attention," he says to no one. Chun leans against the doorframe, eyes on the corner of the room where the camera's green light blinks with patient malice. "You ever notice," she says, "that when patients say they feel a presence, it's never during the day? Because the brain is a haunted house with the lights off," Hale says. "And because at night, you can hear your own blood." He pushes off the wall. The plan is simple and ambitious. Catch another one. With better wires. With more eyes. With enough data to make superstition embarrassed. Night 2 is coming, and with it, the thing Daniel can't name. Whether it's electrical, chemical, or something else with a Latin name that will make sense too late, it will come. The team will be ready, and for the first time, there's a shape to the darkness that looks almost like a clue. By the time night falls again, the hospital has become a theater set waiting for its ghost to appear. The EG leads are freshly pasted, this time the full 21, each electrode numbered like coordinates on a secret map. A second camera watches from the ceiling corner, red light blinking steady. Every cough of the HVAC system is noted in the log, because anything could be mistaken for something else. Daniel tries to joke. "Feels like I'm wired for sound." Chun replies, deadpan, "You are. Just don't sing." He doesn't smile. He's saving his energy. The tension of waiting is worse than the scream itself. The nurses trade off shifts, each secretly hoping nothing happens on their watch. Lena sits at the bedside, arms folded around her knees, whispering old memories to keep her brother tethered. At 1:40 a.m., the first ripple comes. Daniel jerks slightly, not enough to trigger alarms. The EG flutters, artifact mixed with something sharper. Hale, half dozing in the monitoring room, straightens. "Here we go." The scream doesn't come yet. Instead, Daniel bolts upright in bed, eyes wide open but unseeing. His mouth moves, shaping words that make no sound. His hands claw the air, grasping at something only he perceives. The EG bursts with frontal spikes, jagged and angry. Then it hits. The scream rips out of him, tearing through the quiet hospital floor. The sound is primal, the kind of noise that makes even seasoned staff freeze for a second. His oxygen plummets. 95, 92, 88. The monitors shriek in chorus. "Airway," Chun snaps, already pulling his jaw forward. Ortiz presses the oxygen mask, fog blooming inside it. Hale watches the screen instead of the patient. "Look at that focus. It's not artifact." His voice is almost satisfied, like a detective catching the first real glimpse of the killer's face. After 45 seconds, the episode collapses. Daniel slumps back, drenched in sweat, breathing like he ran a mile in the dark. His pulse steadies. His eyes dart around the room. "I was awake," he croaks. "I swear I was awake." This time, there's proof. Neurology progress note, 2:08 a.m. Event captured. E.g., clear frontal lobe seizure activity. Clinical, tonic jaw deviation, vocalization, autonomic instability. Duration, 40 SIXS. Impression, nocturnal frontal lobe epilepsy, highly likely. Plan, MRI review pending, initiate anti-epileptic therapy. But the case doesn't close neatly. When the MRI arrives that morning, the radiologist frowns. The images show no tumor, no lesion, no scar. The brain is structurally pristine, every fold and sulcus immaculate. A textbook brain hiding anything but textbook behavior. Hale rubs his jaw. Seizures without a lesion. Could be genetic. Could be autoimmune. Could be the universe playing darts. "Do we start meds?" Chin asks. "Levetiracetam?" "Sure," Hale says. "Start the drug. But drugs without answers are just sedation in disguise. I want antibodies." I want perineoplastic panel. I want chest, abdomen, pelvis CT. Sometimes seizures are the smoke, not the fire. Daylight brings false relief. Daniel, exhausted, eats scrambled eggs as if each bite is a betrayal. If this is epilepsy, he says, why now? Why me? Because biology doesn't care about fairness, Hale says flatly. And because something in your brain finally found the volume knob. Lena interrupts. He's not epileptic. Nobody in our family has it. Hale looks at her. Then maybe he'll be the first. Congratulations, he's original. The words sting, but beneath the sarcasm lies the truth. Seizures don't need permission from family trees. That afternoon, a new player enters the game. Dr. Morales, psychiatrist, calm eyes behind round glasses, clipboard tucked like a shield. Sometimes epilepsy and psychiatric symptoms overlap, he says. Hallucinations, fear, even beliefs about presences. We should evaluate for comorbidity. Daniel snaps. It's not in my head. Morales meets his eyes without flinching. Everything is in your head. That's where the brain is. Chun watches silently, noting the tension. We'll let the data speak, she says finally. The second night comes sharper, crueler. They're ready, but so is the illness. At 2:11 a.m., Daniel begins thrashing, the EEG bursting like a lightning storm. His scream is cut short this time. His vocal cords lock in spasm, a strangled wheeze that makes the room colder. Oxygen dives. 86, 84. Ortiz shouts numbers. Chun holds the mask tight. Hale stares at the screen, murmuring, "It's spreading. Not just frontal. Look, temporal involvement." The seizure breaks after nearly a minute. Too long. Daniel lies limp, chest heaving, lips tinged blue. When he finally inhales, the room breathes with him. Hale mutters, "This isn't simple epilepsy. Something's fueling it." EG report excerpt. 2:11 to 2:12 a.m. Seizure onset frontal leads. Secondary spread temporal/parietal. Vocalization aborted by laryngospasm. Autonomic instability significant. Suggestive of structural or autoimmune etiology. The next morning, Lena corners Hale in the hallway. "You keep talking about autoimmune. What does that mean?" "It means," Hale says, "sometimes the body decides the brain is a stranger. Antibodies attack neurons. The result looks like epilepsy, psychosis, sometimes both. It's rare. It's dangerous. And it's treatable if we catch it." Treatable how? Immunotherapy, steroids, IVIG, sometimes plasma exchange. But first we need proof. Antibody panel, CSF analysis. Spinal tap, Lena asks, wincing. "Yes," Hale says. "A needle in the back is better than a coffin in the ground." She looks at him, horrified, but she doesn't argue. That evening, Daniel signs the consent with a trembling hand. "Do it," he says. "If it stops the screams." The lumbar puncture is done under sterile light, the needle sliding between vertebrae with quiet precision. Clear fluid drips into vials that look too small to hold an answer. The samples are sent. The waiting begins again. That night, Daniel doesn't scream. He doesn't sleep either. He lies awake, eyes open, whispering to himself, "If it comes back, I'll be ready. If it comes back, I'll be awake." But the EG shows nothing. The monster, for now, has gone quiet. Hospitals have a rhythm. Morning belongs to labs, afternoons to consults, nights to things nobody wants to name. By the third day, Daniel has learned this rhythm in his bones. The squeak of rubber soles at dawn means blood work. The rattle of lunch trays means another conversation about things he doesn't understand. And when the halls quiet down, when the fluorescents hum louder than voices, he knows the screams might come. But today begins with needles and silence. The waiting room of answers. The spinal fluid samples sit in a courier box with more security tape than a package deserves. They're shipped to the lab where people in white coats will search for invisible fingerprints, antibodies that shouldn't exist. Hale explains it with all the tenderness of a tax return. If they find NMDA receptor antibodies, we'll know. If it's LGI1, CSPR2, GABA, each one means something different. But they all mean your immune system is fighting your brain. Daniel presses his palm to his temple. You're saying my body thinks I'm the enemy? That's medicine in a sentence, Hale replies. Lena isn't satisfied. How long until results? Days, Chin says. Sometimes a week. We don't wait to treat if suspicion is high. But right now we don't have enough evidence. We balance risk. Risk? Lena asks. Immunosuppressants shut down defenses, Chin explains. If it's not autoimmune, we'd be opening the gates for nothing. Daniel lets out a bitter laugh. Feels like the gates are already open. Another episode. At 1:57 p.m., while Ortiz is charting vitals, Daniel stiffens. His fork clatters to the tray, peas scattering like marbles. Here we go again, Ortiz says, pressing the call button. This one is different. His body doesn't lunge upright. Instead, his face twists, lips drawn back, eyes rolling just enough to show the whites. His throat works, but no scream escapes. Just a choked whine, like air being trapped. The monitor shows heart rate spiking, 152, oxygen dipping to 87. The EG prints its jagged confession. This time, the seizure doesn't end in seconds. It stretches. 40 seconds. 55. Ortiz leans in, mask ready. Chun rushes through the door. Hale arrives last, eyes already locked on the screen. Still frontal onset, Chun reports, but propagation looks broader. He's not breaking, Ortiz warns. We're over a minute. Hale swears under his breath. Abort it. Lorazepam, 2 milligrams for. The syringe slides into the port. 10 seconds later, Daniel sags like a puppet cut from its strings. The monitors slowly crawl back toward normal. Mark it, Hale says. 2 hours, 1 minute, and 12 seconds end. First prolonged seizure. That's status territory. Daniel groans, head rolling to one side. He's pale, sweat-soaked, eyes unfocused. I was awake, he whispers. I felt trapped. Hale leans close, voice blunt. If these keep getting longer, they won't just trap you. They'll kill you. We need answers yesterday. The MRI revisited. That evening, Varga from neurology rolls in with a new report. I reread the MRI, he says. There's no tumor, no obvious lesion. But look here, subtle cortical thickening in the right frontal lobe. Could be artifact, or it could be cortical dysplasia. Chun frowns. Congenital? Wouldn't he have seized earlier? Not always, Varga says. Some dysplasias stay quiet for decades. But combined with his clinical picture, it fits. It also fits autoimmune, Hale says. And GERD-induced laryngospasm if you want to stretch. Evidence isn't monogamous. So we wait for CSF results? Chin asks. Hale shakes his head. We treat symptoms. Load him on levetiracetam. If the monster keeps screaming through meds, we escalate. Daniel listens from the bed, too tired to protest. Whatever it is, he says, just don't let me wake up screaming anymore. My throat feels like glass. Family tension. That night, Lena corners Morales, the psychiatrist. You think it's in his head, don't you? Morales adjusts his glasses. Everything is in his head. Seizures are in his head. Infections, antibodies, trauma, all in the brain. The question is not whether it's in his head, but what part of his head. She doesn't appreciate the riddle. So you think he's crazy? I think, Morales says carefully. The line between neurology and psychiatry is thinner than people like to admit. If it's autoimmune, he may develop hallucinations. If it's epilepsy, fear and visions are common. What he sees in those moments doesn't make him weak. It makes him human. Lena blinks back sudden tears. She hates him a little less for that answer. Night 3. The third night is always the worst. Exhaustion eats away at Daniel's resistance. The EG wires itch. His voice is hoarse from the last scream. He lies in bed staring at the camera's tiny red eye. At 2:14 a.m., he gasps awake with the presence already on him. His chest heaves, his throat closes, and the scream bursts out like it was waiting just behind his teeth. The monitors go wild. Oxygen crashes to 85. The EEG erupts. Spikes, waves, a firestorm of misfiring neurons. Chun and Ortiz are already in the room. Hale barrels through the door seconds later. Duration, Hale demands. 40 seconds and climbing, Chun says. Daniel's eyes are wide, terrified, fixed on the ceiling. His hands shake violently, slapping at the sheets. Lorazepam, Hale orders. Ortiz is already pushing it. The scream dies mid-note. Daniel collapses, chest rattling. But this time, something else lingers. His right arm twitches, a subtle, repetitive spasm that doesn't stop when the seizure does. Postictal automatisms, Chun notes grimly. This is evolving. The call no one wants. At 5 a.m., Hale stands in the corridor with his phone pressed to his ear. Yes, this is Dr. Hale. I need to fast-track an autoimmune encephalitis panel. No, not standard turnaround. I don't care if it costs more. I want NMDA, LGI-1, CSPR2, all of it. Yes, today. He hangs up, jaw tight. Chun watches him. You think it's autoimmune. I think, Hale says. When a 36-year-old with no history develops sudden seizures and hallucinatory fear, you don't waste time. Tumors don't vanish. Trauma doesn't appear overnight. But antibodies can light up like wildfire. Chun folds her arms. If it is, he's on borrowed time. Everyone is, Hale says. His just has louder alarms. Morning light. When the sun finally pries its way through the blinds, Daniel is still alive. Barely. His throat is raw, his eyes bloodshot, his body trembling from the meds. Lena strokes his hair like he's 12 again. You're going to be okay, she whispers. Daniel shakes his head. His voice is a rasp. I saw it again. In the corner. Watching. Lena freezes. Saw what? He swallows. A doorway. Breathing. Ortiz, charting in the corner, shivers despite herself. She'll later write in her note. The patient's description was unnerving. Even knowing the diagnosis, it did not sound like pure neurology. Hospitals are built on the illusion of control. Monitors beep, machines hum, white coats move with purpose. Everything says, we have this contained. But by the fourth night, control feels like a joke everyone is too polite to laugh at. Daniel hasn't slept more than an hour in 3 days. His skin is pale, his throat shredded from screams. The meds have dulled him, but not the episodes. They come anyway, like wolves testing a fence. The neurology war room. Morning conference. Hale slams a stack of papers onto the table. EEG strips scatter like jagged music. 3 captured seizures, he says. Frontal onset. Propagation to temporal. 1 prolonged, required abortive meds. MRI inconclusive, possible cortical dysplasia. CSF pending. Question. Do we keep waiting, or do we act? Chun glances at Varga. If it's autoimmune encephalitis, early treatment is critical. Varga nods reluctantly. But if it's not, steroids and IVIG could make him worse. Hale leans forward, voice sharp. The man is screaming himself to death every night. He had status last night. Status kills neurons. I'd rather be wrong with treatment than right and too late. Silence. Then Chun. Start high-dose methylprednisolone. If it's autoimmune, we might see improvement fast. Varga sighs. Fine, but document everything. If we get pushback, Hale cuts him off. They can push. I'll scream louder. The fourth night. The infusion begins at dusk. A clear bag of steroids dripping into Daniel's arm. Silent as poison. Hopeful as prayer. He barely reacts. Too tired to care what's entering his veins. At 1:58 a.m., the monitors twitch awake. Heart rate, 140. Oxygen, 93. Daniel jerks upright, mouth open in a soundless scream before the noise erupts. This one is worse, longer, louder, rawer. The camera catches his face twisted in agony, his eyes fixed on something beyond the ceiling. The EEG is a storm. Nurses flood the room. Hale and Chun arrive in seconds. Seizure onset, Chun shouts. Frontal again, spreading bilateral. Duration. Hale demands. 50 seconds. Daniel's whole body stiffens, arms jerking, chest heaving. The scream breaks into guttural gasps. His oxygen crashes to 82. Bag him if he drops further, Hale orders. 65 seconds, Chun says tightly. Not breaking. Give lorazepam. 5 milligrams. Ortiz pushes the drug. 10 seconds. Nothing. Daniel convulses, scream warping into silence. Oxygen 80. 75 seconds. Chun yells. We're in status. Hale curses. Load him. Levetiracetam. 2 grams for now. Prepare intubation. The room becomes choreography. Nurses pushing meds. Respiratory rolling in a ventilator. Chun holding Daniel's jaw open as his breathing falters. His eyes flutter, then roll back. The monitors shriek. Heart rate 160. Ortiz calls. Come on, Hale mutters. Don't you dare. Finally, like a string snapping, Daniel collapses. The seizure breaks. The monitors quiet, though his breathing is ragged. Oxygen creeps back into the 90s. Everyone exhales at once. Longest yet, Chun whispers. 90 seconds. Hale's jaw is tight. That wasn't epilepsy alone. That was a brain on fire. I want the antibody results now. The call. At 6:12 a.m., Hale's pager buzzes. He answers, expression hardening. Dr. Hale? This is Dr. Weiss from the lab. The CSF antibody panel is back. Positive NMDA receptor antibodies. Strongly positive. Hale closes his eyes. So it's autoimmune encephalitis. Yes, classic presentation. Seizures, psychiatric symptoms, autonomic instability. You'll want to start IVIG or plasma exchange immediately. Hale hangs up, exhales, and for the first time in days, looks almost relieved. Then he mutters, "We have a name for the monster." Telling the truth. When Lena arrives that morning, Hale doesn't soften it. It's autoimmune encephalitis. His body is attacking his brain. Her face crumples. Is he dying? Not if we stop the attack. We'll hit hard, immunotherapy, plasma exchange if needed. He'll need weeks, maybe months of treatment. But he can recover. Daniel, pale and trembling, manages a weak laugh. So I'm not possessed. No, Hale says. Just cursed by your own immune system. It's less cinematic, but it's true. The turning point. By evening, Ivig drips into Daniel's arm. Thick, milky fluid like medicine with weight. His eyes flutter as he drifts into uneasy sleep. The camera watches. The EG hums quietly. For the first time in 4 nights, there is no scream. The floor feels wrong without it. Nurses pause in doorways, half expecting the sound anyway. But the silence holds. Chun writes in her note, "No nocturnal event tonight. Possible early response to therapy." Ortiz, less clinical, whispers to herself, "Maybe the monster's leaving." But the story isn't over. At dawn, Daniel stirs. His voice is hoarse, broken. "I dreamed again," he whispers to Lena. The doorway was there, but this time, it closed. Lena squeezes his hand. For the first time, she dares to believe him. In the hall, Hale watches the EG print calm. Steady lines. His eyes narrow. "We bought time," he mutters. "Now we see if it's enough." The 5th morning breaks quiet. Too quiet. No alarms. No screaming. No nurses sprinting down hallways with adrenaline kits. Just the muted sounds of a hospital pretending, for once, to be ordinary. For Daniel, it feels like waking up after weeks underwater. His throat still aches, but the silence is more healing than any medicine. He looks around his room, sees the camera's green light, the EG lead still stuck to his scalp, the 4 tubing coiled like vines. He exhales. "I didn't scream," he whispers, as if saying it aloud might jinx it. The first signs of recovery. Chun reviews the overnight EG with a frown that slowly relaxes. No seizures last night, not even subclinical spikes. Either we're lucky, or the immunotherapy is doing its job. Hale stands behind her, arms folded. I don't believe in luck. He's responding. But we're not finished, Chen warns. Autoimmune encephalitis is stubborn. He'll need weeks of treatment. IVIG, maybe plasma exchange, steroids taper. Could relapse. Could, Hale says. But last night was proof the monster has a name. That's half the battle. Daniel's reflection. Later, sitting up for the first time without dizziness, Daniel asks the question that's been waiting. So what happens to me now? You fight, Hale says. We keep hitting your immune system until it learns you're not the enemy. You'll recover. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not even next month. But you'll get your life back. Daniel chuckles weakly. And if I don't? Then you'll prove me wrong. Hale replies, dry as ever. I don't enjoy that, so don't do it. Lena grips her brother's hand. He's right. You've beaten worse things. Daniel stares at her. No, I haven't. Nothing's ever come close to this. The final night in hospital. On his 5th night, the hospital is ready for another battle. Cameras roll, monitors blink, staff brace. But nothing happens. No scream, no sudden convulsion. Daniel sleeps, his breath steady, his heart calm. At 3:14 a.m., Ortiz notes in her chart. Patient remains asleep. No disturbances, no vocalizations. First peaceful night since admission. She lingers at the doorway longer than necessary. She had grown used to waiting for the scream, as if the hospital itself had a ritual. Its absence feels miraculous. Discharge and warning. By day 7, Daniel is stable enough to leave. He's thinner, weaker, but alive. As the wheelchair rolls him toward the doors, Lena at his side, Hale gives his version of encouragement. You'll keep getting treatment. Don't miss appointments. If you relapse, call. If you scream again, record it. Don't try to be a hero. Daniel half smiles. Heroes scream. They do, Hale says. The difference is whether someone listens. Epilogue, the documentary note. Weeks later, Daniel sits in his apartment, blinds open, sunlight painting the walls. No more cameras, no more wires, just silence, broken only by the occasional hum of traffic. In voiceover, the narration could say, Anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis is rare, often misdiagnosed as psychiatric illness or dismissed as stress. Untreated, it can be fatal. But with timely intervention, patients can recover, sometimes fully, sometimes with scars invisible to anyone but themselves. For Daniel, the scream was never a ghost in the night. It was his own body crying for help. And the real horror was how close he came to being unheard. Daniel closes his eyes, listens to the silence, and for the first time in months, trusts it.